Two real cryptid legends doing what they do, bringing information for me and you. Ron Morehead and his Sierra Sounds, Darrell, Denton, the Tennessee Bigfoot man, along with Michelle, Desrochers, bring adventures across this land. So much information brought to you each week, actively out there looking as the truth they seek.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Two Real Cryptid Legends. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. So tonight, Darrell, Ron, and myself welcome the return of Martin Groves, who's going to be sharing a very extraordinary account that he enjoyed back in 1993. And man, I have to say, after that would have been enough. I wouldn't have been in the woods anymore. So anyway, without further ado, Darrell Denton, Ron Morehead. Here we go.
Hello, Michelle.
How do you do, everybody?
Hello, Ron. Good afternoon. Good evening,
Brother Martin.
everyone.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I've
Darrell,
lost
how
my
you doing?
volume.
Somebody got to say something here.
Well, I welcomed you both. So, so how are you guys? How are you guys?
I'm fine.
Doing anything fun? Yeah, doing anything fun?
I watched the grass grow today.
You watched the grass grow today. Okay, that's fun. That's fun.
Tripped over a couple dogs, other than that, it's okay.
Oh my God. Well, you came in a whole other way.
Anyway.
Look at me. You guys are messing with me. Hold on. Hold on. Oh my
Bill,
God.
are you there?
I'm back. I lost my volume somehow, but I'm back. We're good.
All right. Okay. I'm just playing like Hollywood Squares. I'm just moving this around. So it's just like, anyway. So tonight we have a really good show. Do you guys want to introduce your dear friend Martin Groves?
Hey, he's been my best
Anybody hear
buddy
me?
for
Yeah, we
40
can hear you.
Mr. Martin Groves, been my close friend for about 40-something years, and honored to call him a teammate with Ron and I, and we researched the land between the lakes of Tennessee and Kentucky. Let's have Martin come on.
Hi, Martin.
Hello, guys. It's good to see everybody here tonight.
Oh, welcome back.
I have no volume
It's good to be
again.
here. It's good to be here. Ron, Darrell, Michelle, and everyone down. I can't help but say it, with everyone.
Yep, I have no
all
volume
over, but
again.
down there in New Orleans.
Aw, thank you. We're so happy to have you back. I mean, you were just here yesterday, but really it was a couple of weeks ago. And just
Yes,
full
it
of,
was a blink of an eye.
I know, amazing it was such a great show. It was very well received. I put up some like small reels, those little shorts. I mean, they were getting like 600 and 700 views a piece.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Just for these little shorts, Okay, we're gonna do this one more
Awesome.
time. I'm just saying. Okay, hold on. There we go. Oh, move guys around. Okay, we're doing this.
There
again.
we go. We're having some storms in the area, so y'all be patient with us.
Okay. Yep. That's what Martin was saying. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed, and we're going to try and get through as much as possible. Chat room is filling up, so acknowledging everybody there. Hello, Wayne. Hi, Scott. Hi, Randy. Hello, Pamela, Larry. Nice to see you guys. D. Kelly, nice to see you. Kira, nice to see you here as well. Always great to see you guys. If I miss anybody, please just chime back in and I'll catch you. We're on 8 different platforms simultaneously, so bear with me. So, without further ado, I am Michelle Desrochers, your moderator, host, and producer of tonight's show, and Darrell and Ron will take it away. So, the stage is yours, gentlemen.
Sure, I'll just open up with Ron, and I'll just let Martin start off as you'd like. I think we've lost Ron again, so
It's the storms. It's the storms.
yeah.
So,
I do feel like we're in Hollywood Squares, and I feel privileged because I've not moved yet. I'm the only one that's still with you.
and you're welcome for the extra entertainment, Martin.
Yeah, I think you'll be chosen first, as you have been.
Here we go.
Oh wow, man, that's super cool. Super cool.
All right. So where do you want to take it, Darrell? Where do we start with this incredible story?
I thought I'd let Martin start off with what got him into this thing. It happened to him in April of '93, and I'll let him tell as much of that story that he wishes to, and then we can stop anytime he'd like.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. It's good to be here tonight. The first thing I want to do, and I definitely want Ron to take a look too. I want to show you that I have 10 fingers, so we know that I'm not one of the chosen ones, because we just found the tracks of a 6 toes and 6 fingers of a big hairy guy at Land Between the Lakes and just this week. And so we found an old 6 toes down there, and this is definitely kind of what I consider to be the Nephilim. And but I guess the majority of folks actually do kind of know me, and we'll start from ground zero, just like it'd be our first time that we've appeared. So my name is Martin Groves. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I was a deputy sheriff for many, many years here in Tennessee. And what got me drug into this kicking and screaming was I had a encounter with animals that were not supposed to exist, and by every right, the majority of people that are out there will say that they do not exist. Especially those that are closed-minded and skeptical of it. But I had the same frame of mind. I did not believe in anything like this, and but in 1993, I had chosen to go up into the Land Between the Lakes for some turkey hunting. And in fact, I ran across some animals there that would lead me into decades of research and in attempting to find more answers and to discover exactly what it is I had seen. Just to give a brief event table so that folks can kind of understand where I'm at. In '93, I went turkey hunting into the deepest area of Land Between the Lakes that I could find. And at the time, the area that I had chosen, and I wish now that maybe I had chosen a different hunting spot, but we went into the area of North Rushing Creek. And this is an area unknowns to me that is surrounded by ancient American Indian mounds. And so the way I look at it now, post of the event, I probably was trespassing in an area that I should not have been, even though it's not marked. And the majority of folks looking at this area would have no idea that this is Native Indian American Indian burial ground. So while I was turkey hunting, one of the first things that occurred to us while we were hunting, we had observed in the area that we were at, there really wasn't not a lot of animal tracks and not a lot of sign of animals, even very void of insects. You're accustomed to hearing the crickets and the frogs, and this was in the spring of the year for the spring turkey season. But we just kind of wrote off a lot of things, and if we had written down all of the signs that skillful hunters should have listened, I might have had a different outcome and not have even seen these creatures, because we would have left. it was definitely a very spooky area. Now, Darrell has been there with me, and so has Ron. And this is an area that has Native American burial ground, and then it has later on European Americans that had come to the settlements in the 1700s there, and we had graveyards all around us. The only way I can tell the story is just take it into as short of detail as I can with you, and tell you that we chose a campsite that was along the Rushing Creek area. We had a mountain behind us. We had all kinds of prairie or meadows that were used for farm. There were cornfields around us at that time. Since then, they no longer do a whole lot of agricultural in that area due to the hog infestation. They destroy all of the cornfields and soybean fields. But in 1993, we were surrounded. We had cornfields around us. We had lots of things for deer and turkey and what have you to eat, pheasants and rabbits. And we thought we were going to have a really good hunting excursion. I remember waking up the day of the event on Saturday morning, and it was raining, and we hung back at the camp for a little while. And finally, it stopped misting and raining on us, and I went hunting. My hunting partner, who was also one of my partners at my work, he went one way and I went the other. And I went for a very long hike searching for turkeys and wanted to get me a gobbler. And as I got deeper into the woods, I continued to notice that there was not a lot of animal life, even though there was plenty of food for them to eat. And I look back now and I realize what I had walked into. Somewhere along the hike, at the very end of what I call the Rushing Creek, when it begins to branch and go the opposite way, I was tired and I sat down on a log and I run across another hunter, and we had a little short chat, and we become, hunter friends per se, even though we may never see each other again. In fact, we did not. And we spoke briefly, and he warned me that I need to be very careful in my camp and the area that I was in, because he, in fact, had been having some type of large animal come around his campsite at nighttime that remained out of his fire glow, and just outside of his lantern and just outside of his campfire. And that was another warning sign that I should have had. And but being a very young and a very skillful hunter, and one that was very confident, and I might say overconfident in what I was doing, I did not choose to heed his warning. And little did I know at that time, and with a lot of thorough investigation over the years, I discovered that hunter that I spoke with had actually gotten killed that night in his camp. And it's taken many, many years to discover that. And after very thorough, and I say thorough investigation, and I've actually met the family and have spoken with them. And but the hunter gave me that warning, and I took off very carefree and going through the woods and heading back to my camp. And as I got about maybe halfway through the hike back to camp, I began to see some telltale signs in the woods that really should have awakened me. And I tell the story like this so that if you're ever in the woods, that you don't end up on one of the David Paulides shows as a missing 411 victim. You need to be very cautious and very careful when you're in the woods, and you need to pay very close attention. And I did not. I was just very carefree. Some of the things that I discovered through there now is compared to what we are now as experienced Bigfooters or people that's in the paranormal. I look back then to how young and how naive that I was. I heard whistles in the woods. I heard a very strange noise in the woods that I've never heard before. And I never have heard the same thing again. I've heard almost the same noise, but not quite the same. in over the 30, 40 years that we've been doing this. So I had all these little triggers and warning signs, and I didn't know anything about Bigfoot. I didn't know anything about the Dogman. And I just went carefree through the woods and went trekking back to my camp. And something that I've discovered that I'd like to share with everyone tonight, that it's going to sound a little far-fetched to you, but it's a discovery that I've only made in the last couple of years, and I've not shared this very much with anyone. How many times have we heard hunters that will come back and say that out of my peripheral vision, out of the left side or right side of my head, that I noticed something in the woods with me? Well, guys, that's biblical. Jesus told his chosen, the 3 chosen ones, exactly what to be watching for out of your peripheral vision. And if I'd only knew that then, what I know now, I definitely would have been one step forward up on the hunter scale. But I began to notice things that was on my right side as I'm headed back to my camp in my peripheral vision. And as these things were following me through the woods, I could hear them, I could see them, but if I turned to look at them face to face, I couldn't make out what images I was seeing. However, if I looked out of my peripheral vision again, I could actually see the shadows of them and their movement. At some point, I remember very vividly that I become a little frightened in the woods, and I decided that I was going to, at some point, pick up my pace and walk faster and then just freeze. When I did so, the creatures continued for a few more feet, and then they stopped. That's when I got a little bit freaked out. I knew that was not typical coyote behavior. I knew that it was not typical of the red wolf. We do have wolves inside of LBL that's been admitted. We have the red wolf. We have huge coyotes, and we now have a breeding population of what we call coy dogs, which are very, very large coyotes. At that time, I didn't know what I was dealing with. I knew that they were very large in their size, and I knew that they were stalking me. And at some point, I remember loading my shotgun. I never walked with a round in the chamber. I wanted to be safe, but that got my eyes open, and that caused me to, for the hair to stand up on my neck, and my sixth sense began to kick in that there was something wrong. After I loaded my weapon, I continued going back to camp. I heard more noises. I don't know what it was. I go back now that I feel like that it was Bigfoot in the area. I do feel very much that the Bigfoot and the Dogman were working together in tandem, like a hunter would use his hunting dogs. I heard what I thought was rock clampering together. I heard whistles. I even at one point thought maybe that it was my friend back in camp that was maybe using an axe and striking it. All these things were going through my mind as I'm trying to get back to camp. Finally, when I got closer to my camp, I had heard another metal noise and didn't know what to make of it. And I looked up in the area in front of me, and I noticed a very large man standing beside of the tree. And I really thought it was another hunter. And I recall waving, and the individual didn't wave back to me. And I felt that was very unfriendly. Most hunters are very nice. Whatever the reason, I glanced, looked around a little bit, and he was gone. So this guy that was standing there, and I really believe that he was in really good camouflage, like a ghillie suit, and very, very large. Well, I look back now, I know what I seen. At that time, I didn't, but now I know. And it had been a Bigfoot standing there. And again, never careless, just rocking on back to my camp. And when we get back to camp, I discovered my campmate was very upset, and I thought he was mad at me because I'd been gone so long. And the day, I'm speeding the story up because so many have heard it, but we're talking about a full day's journey here. And I've been gone from my camp for a very long time. I get back, and Harry is very upset with me, and it turns out that he'd had some issues as well. And he'd had some problems when he was in the cornfield. He had had objects thrown at him, and he'd become very nervous, and he'd actually seen 2 orbs in the cornfield with him that flew over the top of his head. He tried to make excuses in his head or rational what he had seen, and there was nothing. That he first thought it may be sun glare or something, but we look back now, and again, this is typical Bigfoot behavior or paranormal events. But for 2 old policemen, man, this was speaking Latin. We had no idea of all these signs and things that had taken place in front of us. But we would soon learn. We would get a education real fast that night. While we were in the camp, we began to hear noises around the camp, and we had everything from what I thought was a man standing behind a tree smoking a cigarette or a cigar. And again, I know now it was Bigfoot eyes or Dogman eyes or just some kind of eye shine. And it really, I smile about it now, and it's better to smile than to go back and relive the stress of it. But whatever this was behind a tree to the right of my camp, it was big. And even if it was smoking a cigar, it was 6 to 7, 8 feet tall. And I would notice that the eye shine, the cigar glow, whatever that it may be, would appear on one side of the tree. And when I would look away, the next time I'd look, might be on the other side of the tree. These were very large trees. At some point, we had objects starting to be thrown off the ridge line that was above our camp. The creek was directly behind my camp, and then this huge mound and wall was behind us, and up on top of that ridge line, we had wood, sticks, and stuff began to fall. And it wasn't like like a widowmaker that was falling down out of the trees. It was objects that was actually being thrown. And instead of rolling down the hill or knocking along the mountain as it came down, it was like it was thrown very intentionally. At one point, we had a pretty large limb fall, hit the ground in front of us. All these things that are taking place, and my campmate and I could not understand what it was. And time was beginning to speed up, and it began to escalate in the camp. And I think the telltale sign for me that we were really under attack is when the rock came. We had a very large rock, and again, and let me explain this to you, it was not rolling down the hill. It didn't get like, a landslide. That rock, we heard it, and it was hurled through the air, and it landed almost in between Harry and I. And when it hit with a thug. And it was a very large rock. And at that point, I can tell you that everything ran through my head. Did we have some moonshiners in the area? Did we have another hunter that was attempting to run me out? You name it. All these things going through my head. At some point, excuse me, guys. At some point, when all this took place, we began to hear a growl. And we could hear the growl from over in the direction of where the gentleman, something was standing, smoking a cigar, eye shine, what have you. But this growl was it came out, it's very loud. I remember it being very hideous. And as the growl came in, it went from a very high bass sound and began to get low and extremely intense. Now, before I get any further with this, and before anybody makes any minds up concerning about that, well, these two old boys, they didn't know what they were doing. They're novice hunters. Darrell Denton will tell you that my sheriff back home that I work for was an extreme, very good hunter, and his name was Sheriff Taylor Ted Emery.
Yep.
And Ted and I, we had deer hunted, we had bear hunted, we had killed many bears and eaten them. We didn't kill them for hides. We killed them because we ate animals. You got to kill it before you grill it. So I knew what every noise in the woods should sound like. I'm very accustomed to being around wild hogs. I've killed many hogs and pigs. All these things. So keep your mind at that I was a knowledgeable man in the woods. Whatever this growl was nothing I had ever heard before in my life. I don't get too intense into it because when I do, I get very upset. Darrell and my wife will tell you I have trouble with it today, and it bothers me today, and it haunts my dreams. But I deal with it in a positive manner, and the way I deal with it is try to teach hunters, and I try to tell hunters of this. So when this growl came in, and I'm not going to argue the point because I've gotten it many, many times. What was it? Is it infrasound? Was it direct energy? Was it some type of radio waves? Was it radiation? Who knows what it was? I can tell you the intensity. I can tell you the feeling. A good witness can tell you what they see, taste, hear, smell, and that's what I'll tell you. I'll let the scholars argue as to what type of special abilities that these creatures have. When that growl went from a high, loud growl and it went to a low growl, it was almost as if I began to get tunnel vision. I began to, my heart rate and lungs, my breathing began to speed up. I got extremely sick to my stomach. I felt like that I was going to, well, the only way to say it nicely is to use the bathroom on myself or throw up at the same time. All these symptoms are coming in. I'm beginning to get tunnel vision. My hearing is affected to where you get that to where that every sound, but it's like you're underwater is the feeling that I begin to have. At some point, I'm receiving all of these feelings that I've described to you is when I heard something to the left side of my head. And when I did, I turned very slowly, and in the glow of my campfire and a small kerosene lamp, I saw something walking in on the trail that was beside of our tents and camping area. When I did, I saw something that I can describe to you that is not supposed to exist. By all rights, there's no explanation for what I saw. But what I saw is just as real as me sitting here tonight speaking to you guys. I saw an animal that stood between 6 and 7 foot tall. It had 2 tones of color to it. Mr. Darrell will tell you that I'm extremely colorblind, but the colors that I saw was black with silver gray mixed to it. I saw a creature that had dark black eyes, as if you were looking at a shark in the water. It had just the blackest eyes you could see. And I saw the ears, and that is one thing that stood out and then haunts me to this day is the ears that stood up on this, and they were erect and they were facing forward, almost like they were antennas. Vividly, I remember it was facing directly towards me and my hunting partner. And this thing came in, it would get close. Keep in mind now, with everything I'm describing to you guys, that I've got all these feelings of dread, anxiety, frightened. I felt like that, to be honest with you, I felt like that I was going to die right then and there. And just, okay.
I think Harry was in the same shape, wasn't he, Martin?
Harry was in the same shape, and he was feeling it as well. So I looked over at him, and his shoulders were slumped, and as this creature began to get closer and closer, I felt like that I could not walk, I could not move, I could not do anything. All I could do was just sit and await whatever was coming. And to be honest with you, looking back now, I felt like that it was going to eat me. I've had many years of experience now with these creatures, and I know what comes next is going to shock a lot of people that have not heard the story. But I was mind spoke or mental telepathy from this creature. And basically the message that I got was that that I cannot do anything, and I am going to eat you, kill you. And it was so vivid in my mind. Now, the only thing that I could think of at the time, and I'll keep it short as I can, but all I could do is, because of my religious background, I began to pray. And as I began to pray, I noticed that I could feel a little bit more power in my body. I felt like that I was gaining some ground or some strength that was within me. And at some point, I went from mentally praying in my head, I began to pray aloud. And the more that I prayed, the stronger that I became. And I noticed that the creature didn't seem as aggressive or have as much power over me as it did before. The creature seemed to actually, in my opinion, begin to become smaller, if that's possible. Before it was standing more erect, and then it seemed like that it slumped forward towards me. In any event, at some point, I felt like that I could move, and I did. And when I did move, my training kicked in, and I had many, many years training as a police officer. And I've done a lot of things in my life as a policeman. And at some point, that's when instincts took over, and my right arm moved, and it just instinctively went for my weapon. And I had a firearm on my side, and I pulled my weapon. And what is something very important for everyone to hear and to know, that when I pulled my weapon and I brought it forward in a port carry position, this monster, this creature, this what I know to be a half man, half wolf, dog man, whatever description or whatever what a human wants to call it, it was very intelligent, highly intelligent, and it knew that weapon would hurt it. Because when I drew my weapon, it backed away from me. And it backed away, and I looked at it, and I thought, again, you got instincts as a police officer. You can't use your weapon unless you know what you're shooting. You don't discharge your weapon. It's a very serious thing when you use a firearm, and I don't take it lightly. And when this thing backed away from me, I felt as if the danger was not the same. But the next thing that occurred is when I dropped my weapon, it advanced towards me. When it advanced towards me, I said, no, in my mind, it's a given. And I raised my firearm. And before I pulled that trigger, guys, you have to understand and think about this. I didn't know if I was firing at a man in a costume. I didn't know if I was firing at a creature or a beast or an animal. I didn't know if I was firing at a ghost. I had no idea. But my training took hold of me, and I felt as I had to protect not only my hunting partner, I had to protect myself. And I discharged my weapon, and any officers listening tonight will understand. I fired tac-tac. I fired 2 rounds that sound like there's one. And we're trained to fire 2 rounds very fast. You have minimum loss on the target. It will stay and create a larger wound when you're firing at someone. And So you put 2 rounds in an eighth to a half inch area. And as soon as I fired, this thing right in front of me, it dissipates. It's as if it didn't exist, like it was not even there. I heard the noise. I often think in my mind that I actually heard it strike. You can hear if you hit a target. But this thing dissipated and it went up the hill. And when I say it, I didn't see it go up the hill. I did hear it, but I could not see it. Either my vision and the frequency, Mr. Ron, the frequency or the energy, whatever this thing did or whatever ability it had, it was up that hill, and I could not see it with my normal human eyes or vision. The next thing I know, it's on the hill, and I can hear it scurrying around. So at the same time, guys, when I fired my weapon to discharge my handgun, my partner behind me, whether if it was out of sympathetic fire, what we call that, or if it was his instinct, what have you, he fired almost simultaneously when I discharged my firearm. And he had, all I will say is he had a double-barreled shotgun, and he emptied both rounds into the tree that was beside of us, where the guy that's standing smoking, or the eye shine, or whatever that you can say was behind that tree. And immediately, it was a different story with him. For me, when I fired, I didn't hear any animal noise. I didn't hear any scream or squall. I didn't hear anything. Behind me, when he fired his double-barreled shotgun, he hit something. And whatever he hit began to scream, and it was hideous. Guys, I grew up on farm. We've slaughtered many animals for food. I've never heard any kind of animalistic noise like this. Whatever this noise was, it was a combination of demonic, or as if a pig was squealing in intense pain. And keep in mind now, I've looked back and I've spoken with him over the years. He was aiming at eye level or cigar level of whatever this was. And I told you that this was 6 to 7 feet in height. When he fired, that's what he fired at. He fired at the 6 foot range or higher. It wasn't nothing an animal that stood 2 to 3 foot tall. So I'll leave that also for others and scholars to figure out. He didn't fire nothing that only stood 3 or 4 foot tall. He shot something standing in the 6 to 7 foot range or greater. When he discharged his firearm, he immediately began to run towards his truck, and I made a hasty exit, or what we call a tactical retreat. And I was covering the ridge line with my handgun, and I was covering where these animals, whatever's behind this tree, is screaming. And there was a cane patch, and it was, whatever it was going through that cane patch and was tearing it all to pieces. But it did not approach. My partner jumps in his pickup truck, gets it fired up, and he cannot get it out of park and get it going. I jump up into the back end of the pickup truck on the outside, and I'm hanging on to over the top of the cab. And at some point, when he cuts his headlamps on, and he trips the emergency brake, he gets it going. I look out into the field in front of me, and second time that I got mine spoke. But what was in front of this pickup truck was not what was in our camp. The objects in the camp, the animals in the camp were canine. The ears that I've described to you, what I saw in the hand lamps of that pickup truck were 2, what I believe to be what I call the hairy man. They were 2 large Bigfoot. One was standing, one had fell down into what we now call into a mode of what Bigfooters relate to as a spider crawl. And it was as if this thing was going to pounce. Now, these things were they were less than a football field away from us. It was very menacing. I could tell that they meant business. I could see teeth. I could see eyes. I could see hair. And I knew immediately when I saw what was in the cornfield in front of us that the same creature I was looking at was on the hill with me, and that's what I had waved at, and it just disappeared either inside the tree or behind the tree. I look back now, I believe that whatever was up there, it entered into the tree. So to wrap the story up, I saw the two Bigfoot. My hunting partner made a short distance of getting out of there. Darrell has been there, and he's seen how great difficulty it is to come out of Rushing Creek. We barely made it in the truck that he and I was in that day when we visited that area. You have to actually go down into a very deep ravine and creek bank and go down and then come back up and jump it. And we came through there, and as we exited and we came through there, I know now, you got to imagine now, here's this cat in the back end of the truck. I'm banging on him on top of the roof to let me get inside the truck with him. At the same time I'm beating and I'm raising Cain, he hit something, and down the right-hand side of this pickup truck we were in was one of these creatures, and it was canine, and it was coming down the side of it trying to hang on and get into that, into the truck with me. I would find out later on that he actually struck it, and he told me that he had struck it and run over it. And so we make a mass exit, and we attempted to report that night. And we went down to the South Check Station, which was a few minutes away, and they were closed, which was typical of those days. They closed down at dark, and we made a decision after a lengthy discussion between two of us. My hunting partner wanted to leave and never come back. I had a sense of obligation. I had discharged my weapon, and I wanted to report what I had done and what I had seen. I also had a sense of that the general public was in danger, and I wanted the park officials to know what happened to us. No matter how crazy that it sounded, I was very willing to report what had taken place and what had happened to me if it saved someone else's life. So we ended up spending the night in the park, and the next morning we went back to report this. And when we went back, we had a variety of different approaches from the park rangers that were there. And the long story short of it, they accused us of being city folks that had never hunted before, that we had made a mistake, that one of them even went to the point of said, hey, we may charge you for poaching bear. And at that time, guys, you got to keep in mind, the park had not even admitted to the general public that there were bear in the woods. So in any event, all these scenarios took place. They called my boss and reported what had taken place, that I had discharged my firearm, called my sheriff, and he did. I know what he told the folks. He told them that these were two of his best deputies, and that whatever we said happened, they'd better listen to us. Now, this is where the story gets pretty emotional, pretty strong. As we're there, because I sped up my story tonight, the hunter that I had run across, I saw his pickup truck, and it was being towed past the check station, and it had pulled in to talk with the park rangers. I would later find out from other deputies that were there, and I said deputies, not rangers. They had been a search and rescue mission earlier that morning because a hunter's wife had reported her husband missing, that he had not come home like he was supposed to. And two hunters that very morning had walked into a camp and discovered a camp that had been torn to shreds, had been ripped to pieces, and whoever was driving that pickup truck was dead. That's when 2 and 2 went together. Me being an officer, I'm very observant. I saw the bumper stickers. I saw the state tag from Kentucky. I saw that he was a fireman. We had spoken of that back and forth. I knew 100% that the man they said that was killed in his camp was the hunter that I had spoken with. And through investigations over the years, I have, in fact, made contact with that family and spoken with them.
Now, Martin, I want to interrupt you 1 second. I know that when you also, these creatures, as you were pulling out, they tore your camp to pieces too, these dogman type creatures.
Yes. For the sake of time, there's a lot of things I have not brought out and not told. As we're leaving the camp, I could see vividly that there were more than 2, possibly 3 or more creatures in the camp, and they ripped the tents, they ripped everything to pieces. What can I say? I was just very fortunate that we were able to leave there.
Hey, Martin.
Yes.
Quick question. If I remember correctly, up on that bluff where you said the rock came from, isn't there a cemetery up there?
Yes, that's a cemetery above us, and it is also what we have, Ron, and me and you have spoken many times about it. In the 1700s, when the Europeans showed up, they made cemeteries, they made graves over the top of the Indian mounds. And one of the reasons is because they didn't put their cemeteries in areas that they might be agriculture or that they would not have pastures for their animals. So typically, they buried their dead and their loved ones on top of these hills, and they had no knowledge that these were Indian mounds. So you have a level of Indian mounds, then you have European settlers, and then you have the 1800s and 1900s. And so, yes, where that rock came from, it came from the very top of that cemetery, and now we know that is the cemetery that's just above Russian Creek.
Right.
Well, there is a legend with a belief going back to ancient times, if you can get into that whole ancestral imprinting thing, that dogmen were guardians of entrances and gateways to places like that included cemeteries.
Certainly, we can go back to the late 1600s and 1700s with and Darrell was asked this question today in another podcast that he spoke, and I go more deeply into the historical part of the Land Between the Lakes, into the days of the Cherokee and the Shawnee, and 100% those Indians lived, fished, hunted, buried their dead. That entire peninsula from one end to the other is virtually a graveyard. It is a grave site from one end to the other of everything from the Adena mound builders to what we are the Woodlands Indians, and then the Cherokee and Shawnee that inhabited that until probably mid 1800s, when they began to move and go closer into parts of I think it was Stanford, Kentucky, is where some. Now, Darrell was asked a question earlier today, and I wish I had been there just to whisper in his ear. Yes, we have brought in Cherokee and Shawnee elders. Now, what you have, many of these very esteemed folks, they're such a great people. They don't want to appear on camera, and they don't want to tell their history, and they do not wish to share their private history of oral history of mouth to ear. What the American Indians or the Athabascan or the Indians of Alaska, their history is not lore. It is their truthful oral history. Now, maybe that fish was, they said was 8 inches. Maybe it was only 7 3/4, but it was still a fish they told the story about. And so today, when that guy asked Darrell, we have brought so many elders. I had a friend who had taken me under his wing for many years, and he was a great friend that had tutored me and taught me so much. But we had interactions with Bigfoot in the area of the Hicks Cemetery. That I had interactions with a family of Bigfoot. There were 5 Bigfoot in that family unit. Now, I don't want to get in trouble. Don't want to get somebody upset with if I use the word family clan or a Bigfoot family. You know, they have so many that we're supposed to use different definitions and different names for these. But we had interactions with 5 Bigfoot family clan. And we had close interactions, and we shared mind speak. And it is the only time that I have gifted, and it was to my Cherokee elder. He wanted to gift, and we did gift and give things, and we received things from this clan. But yeah, Darrell, I was with you today. I was listening to your podcast today.
Okay, you know, the thing about it too, Martin, you might bring up as the French settlers and even the American Indian that lived in that area, even in the 1700s, talked about the Dogman creature.
Oh yes, when the Transylvania Fur and Land Company first came in, and they began to attempt to purchase all the area of Kentucky and Tennessee from the Cherokee war chiefs. The fur trappers that came in, some French, some English, immediately began to have trouble, and they began to have trouble with their pack mules and their horses being slaughtered, and they would find their animals with their throats ripped out. And the Indian lore or the history of them that was passed from the white man down to us, their history would come into more detail because they knew more. The history of the fur trappers finding their animals, and they stated that when these animals were slaughtered and their throats ripped out, that not the possums nor the vultures of the air, the turkey buzzards, would ever touch their carcass. Well, then you had not only their animals slaughtered, but one by one, these fur trappers would go out, whether if it was one-on-one or a pair or a couple of them, and they would not come back, and they would never be found again. The descriptions that was given at that time was of the shadow people and the sloping giants.
Right.
And that history is still available today for those that will slow down long enough and attempt to read some books and attempt to do real research, not on computers, but go and speak to Native Americans. And there's one book I highly suggest to everyone to read in America. And the professor that wrote it, I apologize to him, I cannot recall his name, but the name of the book is The Worlds the Shawnees Created, the Shawnees Made. And there's so much in there about the history of the Shawnee. And then Mr. Albright that wrote the early history of Tennessee. And you have to remember the Kentucky-Tennessee line is right through the middle of the Van Lakes. And thus you have the struggle of what side of the ground you were born on, if that's the Tennessee River or the Kentucky River or the mighty Cumberland on the opposite side. And but there is so much rich history and truthful history. But today's people, for whatever reason, have a hard time in looking back and taking our real truthful history as something that took place. They want to either rewrite history or change it to make it to fit their own doctrine or philosophy. But if you go back to this Native American history, we have all the answers we need. We know what was in that park then as a land between the rivers or between the rivers. But it was the dark and bloody ground for them.
I have, questions for you before we get too far out of it. Going back to the Dogman, where I guess you fired and they were gauging height. So Matt says, can you ask Martin if you knew or assumed it was male? And the reason he was asking is because of the height of the creature.
No, I do not know if it was male or female. And you have the darkness, of course, and then you have the fear, the account of fear that we had. I've looked back and I've done everything from hypnosis to speaking with shaman, speaking with even some of my friends, the Buddhists that are Buddhist, and they've tried to take me back. I don't know if it was male or female. I do know the general description, and I've tried to relive it. And I certainly relive it many times inside of my nightmares.
Oh, no doubt about that. Yeah. You carried a lot of pain for a lot of years. I know that. Until what little bit you and I talked about it for over the years, until you finally were able to tell your complete story at the first ever Dogman conference in Paris Landing. That was probably brought the house down that day, and it relieved you quite a bit to be able to get that off your shoulders.
Yes, it did, and the only reason why I came forward, there was a couple of reasons, but I will never forget, and I give credit where credit was due. One, Johnny Henderson had brought this story out to a professor with Small Town Monsters, and Professor Heather Mosier approached me and assured me that people would be very respectful and would want to know what took place and what was in these woods. And my only goal has been, and Darrell knows me well, I've just got to say it, man. This was not for fame. It was not for making money. I came out to help others, and I wanted to find answers, and I wanted to educate hunters and keep people safe. Anything that has ever been made from appearances or from books, I donate it to charity, man. And I have had for many years. I donate it, and I try to give back to hunter safety courses. I want hunters to get out there in those woods and enjoy and to have fun. But I want these hunters to also be safe. And when they go in those woods, understand that what's in these parks, national parks, and the recreational areas such as we have in Land Between the Lakes, it's not always a safe place. If you're vigilant and you watch and you're careful, you're looking in the trees, you're being very careful what you do, that does give you a heads up of just walking nonchalant through the woods and not paying any attention.
Knowing what knowing what you knew then in comparison to knowing what you know now about the area and maybe the human interference, I'll leave it there, that goes on with some of these beings. Do you think maybe you were dealing with those type of animals or creatures, as you say, interfered with? Military. Yeah.
I'm not really sure if I understood the question because I kind of lost you there for just a second.
Well, when I say human interference, is like hybridization, making them aggressive. So I'll just
I got you.
Because I could be the total elephant in the room and just blurt it out, but I
don't
know.
No.
Really good.
and I totally agree with you, Michelle. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I really don't know if what I ran across was the creatures in their natural form, or the demonic creatures, or whatever that they were at that time, or were these creatures that had been enhanced by obvious military experiments. And of course we have so many stories, and I've spoken with so many that have been soldiers in the American armies or have served in special services branches. We do know that even since World War II, that creatures have been used. They've been experiments biological to where that they enhance their abilities. It is said through many different research papers and studies that in fact that they were doing this in World War II in Germany, crossbreeding human and canine to create a master soldier. Russia did it as well.
Yes.
Who knows what we have done?
Right.
I do feel that in any event that because no one's asked tonight, I do believe that it's very possible that the Bigfoot that were there, I've been asked many times over the years, were the two Bigfoot in the field there to protect me, or were they commanding the canine dogmen? And I really don't have a clue. I've looked back many years because I've had contact with what I consider to be a more docile Bigfoot, and then I compare to what I had seen that night in that field of Russian Creek Camp, what has been known, what is now called the Russian Creek Camp incident, or the Russian Creek incident. And I do know that I've seen different creatures. They look differently. Their facial features are different. Darrell has many times has spoken with me concerning the possibility of what I run across at Russian Creek, of course, being different than what I have had contact with in the Hicks Cemetery as Bigfoot versus Gugway.
Yeah, I truly believe that what you had that night were Gugway, but I don't have any way to prove
They were very
that.
vicious. They were very vicious. They were not docile in any manner. The feelings that I got and the mind spoke that I received, and I compare that to over the years. Now, something I don't know of our time value tonight or time. That is what begun me or thrust me into this world from 1993 into investigating and speaking with. I can look you in the eye and say over internet, over telephones, and in person. And Darrell's been with me on some of my face-to-face investigations or witness accountings, and we've had thousands, literally thousands, just from the area of land between the lakes and the surrounding farms that are adjacent to the rivers of the Kentucky and Cumberland rivers. And over the years from 93 until 2026, I have interviewed thousands of witnesses and families that have come forward. And there are so many stories that I could tell. And some peaceful, some very just full of horror, and some, unfortunately, where their loved ones have either disappeared or were killed on the peninsula.
You know, it after speaking with Bruce Brown last week, and he had called the more docile ones the ancient ones, because I was like, you seem to have, like, we hear all these horrific tales, and he seemed to have had these more curious type, not so much aggressive. So do you think, I mean, I would have to say, like,
Shale, I want to, I do believe Bruce has a special way with these creatures. I think that people that are able to do what he does have a special way. I've always thought I had a little special way with the Bigfoot creature, but Martin, being with him as long as I have and researching with him as long as I have, he has developed a special way with the Dogman creature. And it's pretty amazing. I've witnessed it several times, and they seem to have some way of listening to what he has to say.
why do you think that is, Martin? Do you think it's because you have that experience? Is it like a healthy respect, or they just know that you are, that you're not going to harm them out of, like, just because of that, you will that you are fair.
Michelle, I want you to realize, and I really give huge kudos to you for asking me that question, because no one's ever slowed down enough to ask that particular question. You were very astute. I was marked. I've spoken with other researchers, investigators over the years. I would have never come out of the woods per se and even come forward. If I had known I was going to be attacked the way that I have been in the last few months, I would have never come out of the woods to tell this. I was marked. I know that other investigators say that somehow they were marked by the Bigfoot and Dogman. I know now that I was marked by the Bigfoot itself, because that was the Bigfoot that appeared to me the previous night of the incident when it was in our camp that night. That was the Friday night before the Saturday attack. In short, here's your answer, Michelle. For the years that I've spent with the Bigfoot on the Hicks Cemetery and on the ridge where they had built rock cairns, and Darrell has seen some of their rock cairns that they've had in places that we have gifted. The one that communicated with there on the Hicks Cemetery was called, he was very affectionately called the old one, or the grandpa. And we had such a camaraderie built that if we left something, we know to leave 5 objects, and in return, the old one, or members of that clan, he would bring 5 objects back. If we left 5 red pouches of tobacco and garlic and candy and stuff, we would receive maybe 3 fish, 2 turtles, sometimes 5 turtles, sometimes 5 fish, but it was always the number 5. And we knew. Now, I've only received a couple answers when I would ask questions of them. And one of the things that I brought out is that one of the answers when I asked how old that he was, or how old that they were, it was a vivid response, and it came clearer than any other message. And he says that I am the older than the mountains of smoke. And so that is one thing that I've never forgotten. This is also the same place that we led Adam Davies into. And Adam Davies has told many times on interviews that he's had that he's been all over the world, no matter where he has been, Russia, China, Tibet, Himalayas, wherever he's been. It came here to this area on the Hicks Cemetery Ridge that night that he went face to face with his first Bigfoot. And that was something I'm very proud of.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's nice when you can build a bond, like a bond like that. It's like you went from being the hunter to the hunted to really getting into an evolved connection.
Well, I personally believe it has a whole lot to do with your inner being too, and I know that it does, because these creatures have a way of picking up, and they know what's in a person's heart and soul. And I don't know, that may sound a little crazy to some people, but I know that to be the case. And these certain creatures, they know your intentions, and they understand why you're there, and they also know if you're a believer and you're filled with Jesus Christ in your soul.
Yeah.
It's all about vibration. Got to go back. Got to say that word. Vibration.
This is right.
Yes. Vibration energy.
Yeah.
I want to say.
I got a question.
Say something. Go ahead. Well, I
was going to ask you, Martin. Did you smell any smoke? Well, you said it was a cigarette or a cigar that night. Did you see the light from it? Was it glowing?
It was glowing, but there would never. Yeah, you're very correct. There was never any smoke, and I know now in my heart that what I thought was a person smoking a cigarette or a cigar, it was where they leaned out from the side of the tree, and I could only see one eye. It was glowing just like a cigar. And it is so funny to me now. I look back and I'm like, I was so naive. And of course, I had never thought anything about such a creature existing. I just knew because I was a policeman. I had seen many times in my lifetime somebody in the middle of nowhere behind a warehouse or something, and they'd be puffing on a cigar, and that's what I thought I was. I thought I was dealing with some crazy hunters.
Yeah. Now, when you shot, when you used your firearm that night, what caliber was it?
I don't really give the calibers out, and I know that one individual has asked several times and has asked Michelle. It was a department issue weapon. I will tell you that. And
Okay.
it was the firearm that I had, and
And
I had the firearm.
From what you remember, do you remember where you shot at? Was it in the middle or the top, or what part of the body were you shooting at?
Always in the T-bone. I will always, anytime that I fire a weapon, I go for the T-bone, which will be upper chest. That will automatically have a respiratory heart, and possibly stop any brain movement. And so we're trained to shoot in the T-bone.
And your partner that was there, he shot at the same time with his shotgun, correct?
With a double barrel, yes.
Yeah, and he shot up high though, didn't he?
He shot anywhere from, I'd say 6 to 7, but there's what his description was. It was between 6 to 8 foot tall. I gauged 6 foot to 7 foot, and I'll tell you why I say that, Ron. And it's kind of funny to me. Over all the years, and it's not so much now, but in every bank and in every department store and Minute Mart, as you walk out that store and you go through those doors, how many times have you ever seen the inches and feet right next to the door? 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, because these places have been robbed so many times, and in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, they were still a part of that building, man. They would put up a scale that you could pretty well predict. The suspect stood 6'6" because right there is where his ears were. So I've over the years I've become pretty close to gauge that.
Now, when did you hear the screaming? Was it how long?
It was post almost immediate of him firing his double-barreled shotgun.
And where would you say that scream was from? Up on the bluff or closer to you?
No, it was directly behind the tree and the cane patch. And the only reason why I didn't go in more vivid detail because of the time factor. But when he fired, there were definitely more than 2 creatures, and you could see the shadows of them as they were going through this cane patch. They were intelligent enough to not come in on us for whatever reason, whether if they felt like they were going to get shot, but they stayed in that cane patch. And the one that was shot and took the brunt of the turkey load out of that shotgun, it was screaming and it was mad and it was tearing that cane patch all to pieces.
You know the Daniel Boone story where he shot one in the face? That's how he killed it. And the Boone National Park. And because supposedly he cut it open and it had a solid plate on his chest, and you have to shoot him in the head. I just wonder if the shotgun got him in the head.
I do too, and I've often wondered of that. Yeah. And then later, years later, we discover with what took place with Daniel Boone that this solid, thick rib cage that is described by Daniel Boone is also later that is described in some of the Adena mounds of the late 18 and early 1900s, where they dug out some of the mounds in Kentucky and they found solid rib cage giants that were 8 to 10 feet in length. And it's so fascinating to me that here we have the possibility of a solid rib cage.
Also, the Kandahar giant, which you've all heard of, I'm sure, they shot him in the face. They had to shoot him in the face to kill it. Military, supposedly. I know L.A. Mozilla pretty well. He got those people pretty well. And
it's
it took a face for a headshot.
I think it's pretty.
I think I'm bringing all this up so you don't get threatened anymore. You got to shoot him in the face, and you got to shoot.
You got to shoot him, because if I see one of them nasty boys, and they always run, I don't know why. Why do they always go for the slow fat man? They do. So
well, like I say,
know this.
Well, if we're gonna go out on horses, I just hope they eat the horse first. You know.
I hope they get the horse. I'm gonna ride the mule. I'm gonna ride the mule.
Yeah, mules are smarter than horses.
A moment ago, something that hit me, and I can't speak for Ron, but I'm going to say a few words about you, Ron, and you, Darrell, as well. It is of my personal belief and opinion that, and another gentleman that I'll speak of by the name of Michael Smith, Coach Smith. We've all four been marked. I believe you, Ron, was marked in the Sierra Mountains. I believe that, and I mean this with the most gracious, you're a hero to me, and I really believe that your intelligence, that you have been enhanced, whether if it is intelligence like Rush Limbaugh used to say, intelligence on loan from the heavens. But I do believe that all four of us, somehow, we have been marked by Bigfoot, and there is a way they communicate and they see us. And I go back to the days of even the 14th century, and some of the paintings, there were not halos that were above the angels. There was a lamp, a glow. And Ron, you've taught me about that essence, glow that we have.
Well, thank you, Martin.
Our energy. But I believe that all four of us, Mike Smith included, we have been marked by Bigfoot in some manner that they recognize us, and Barton Nunnelly as well for what he lived through as a child. I believe he was marked.
Well, we're here for a reason. I'm here specifically so I can talk about what's happened to me in the Sierras and where it's taken me in all these years of 50 some odd years of doing this. And I just hope that it helps somebody else. So that's all it's for.
Sure, that's what we're all here about. I agree with that. I know Martin, he really has spent a lot of years in the LBL for the main reason of trying to help out people going in there, because, you know, the National Park Service or even the National Forestry, they don't put signs up that say these creatures may exist, and you know, and they do. And there's innocent people that don't have any idea they do exist.
Well, it's like Yosemite, you know, they're around Yosemite. That's where our encounters were between Yosemite and Tahoe. All kinds of encounters in there, but they don't talk about it because they don't want to mess up their tourism.
They don't mess up that revenue.
I know David Paulides, he says Yosemite's got more than any of them, just about.
Yosemite is supposed to be the #1 place in the world with the most missing people.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, most missing people of any place in the world.
Wow. And do we
Well, I almost went missing there once.
Why? Or did we just
You did almost go missing there. Hopefully one day we can, maybe we can all make it up to that town. So,
well, I want to get into LBL before I go back out west. I got to go back out west.
Well, we're gonna get in there.
And,
we're going to get into the LBL area, and we've got some brand new sightings. I began earlier tonight. I just kind of threw something out there. I've got several very active, open investigations that people are wanting me to take a look at that have occurred in the LBL. January 17th was a very exciting sighting where Mike Smith and myself had a very horrifying encounter. But we have the individual that was just struck with this rock, and this was a research area, Ron, that I think all of us will want to go. But that guy was hit with the rock, man, because he was in an area he was not supposed to be.
Right.
And I had received many witness accounts that this is an area where there are no game. There's no game. This is a very beautiful place. It's full of berries. It's full of pawpaw trees. It's full of elderberry, blackberries. There's no reason why that there is not deer, turkey, and other small game. There's about a 3-mile radius of where this alpha male lives, and nothing comes in there. If it does, it's going to get eaten. So it's eating good in the hood. And this is exactly where, and I have to give a huge shout out to Jimmy Smith. Jimmy is the proprietor, owner, and master distiller of Golden Pond Distillery, and he was a skeptic. And within the last few months that I've been working with Jimmy, he has taken me, and he had a skeptical thought in mind of this, the approach of Bigfoot. But we have a tree that has been ripped up, and the root ball is to the heaven, and it's been buried in the ground. This is in the same vicinity and area where we have found, and the reason why I hold my hand up like the Indians used to, they wanted to make certain that you had only 5 fingers, not 6. But we have this area where a very large Bigfoot was crossing a creek bank, and we have his handprints and toe prints, and we have 6-digit hands, 6-digit feet.
Oh, that's not good.
As it continued on in this very same area where he threw rocks at this man, this separate individual, we attempted to replicate the depth and the track. We had approximately 16-inch, maybe 17-inch foot tracks that were 2 and 3 inches in depth. I weigh close to 275, and I can't make a mark in that. And it's almost like an interstate from the top of the mountain where the mound is down to exactly where Mr. Smith's berry patches and pawpaw trees are. And and the guarded mushroom.
That's a big
so
tree.
this is where they're in there trying to get to the mushrooms, and a very highly.
What kind of mushrooms? Maybe there's a reason that they're a little off.
That's the reason we're seeing Bigfoot. That's the very reason Uncle Bubba's been seeing the Bigfoot. It's the magic mushroom.
The magic mushrooms.
Yes,
that's what it is.
I'm just saying, you know.
There we go.
Everybody trips in a different way.
That's exactly right.
And if you wish,
just hope they don't get the munchies.
Bigfoot, you got to eat the same mushroom that the hairy man eats.
Yes. Scott is asking, he's wondering if they put elk in the LBL to have food for the creature, so maybe they would leave people alone. Maybe the turkey just isn't doing it.
Okay, I see the word elk. Well, I will tell you this, and it came out. A lot of times things come out that I don't really want to share, but it did come out in a podcast or it was a live interview. So in the area of Russian Creek, there's been so many folks that have wanted to come in and see the general area. And what they have been discovering, people I'm not even connected with, but they're friends, what they've discovered is a virtual graveyard of bones. It's like you've got a lion's lair, per se, in Africa. And we have found elk skull that's not supposed to be taken from behind their enclosure. There's hundreds of acres for the elk. We have found bovine skull. We have found just you name it. We found horses' skulls and horse bones. So yeah, I do wonder about the elk. I wonder about the Tatanka, the old buffalo. It's been about 6 months ago that I went in and found the leg bones and the upper this clavicle and the skull of a large buffalo. Now, the buffalo is closer than the elk is. This is all found in Russian Creek, coincidentally, with the same place in '93 where I had my and Darrell and Ron have been there and seen the place. And Darrell has had some pretty horrific experiences in that area with me. But yeah, I do believe the elk and the buffalo may get munched on from time to time. Bon appetit.
So they're not a stranger to larger prey. So a man would be, a human being really wouldn't be any any effort.
Oh gosh, yes, and
Yeah.
I'm just chomping at the bits to answer all of Darrell's questions, man. The guy asked him today. He said, "Okay, how much does the Bigfoot have to eat, and what would it take to that?" Now there is an answer to that. How much the Bigfoot is going to eat, and I'll give you that answer if you're listening.
How much you can catch?
If a grizzly bear if a black bear goes 6 to 8 and smaller, and if the grown grizzly bear has to have X amount of pounds of food to eat. If our little hairy man is 600 to 800 pounds or greater, the bear has to have 60 to 80 pounds, sometimes less, of food to eat a day. So there's your answer. You can give that guy next time, Darrell. You can tell him that the old hairy boy's got to have 40 to 80 pounds of food to eat per day. Just saying.
Gotcha. I got you, brother. I got you.
Okay, we have one last question for you guys that Matt is asking. And he says, to the three legendary gentlemen, do you feel that your sightings and experiences have been a blessing or a curse in your lives?
I feel a blessing for me because it was they were good encounters. I learned from them.
Yeah. Martin, how
and
about you?
it's taken me further.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're quantuming your way right through that experience.
Well, like Martin said, it just disappeared, right? Well, there's
Just
the way that
disappeared.
happens.
That's where Ron
Yeah.
The
goes.
scientific way that
Well, I
happens.
got it. I have a good answer, but I'll let Martin answer first.
Oh man, I was so hoping you'd go so I'd know what to say.
I'll be glad to go.
I could use part of yours. No, so it's been both. It's been for the Dogman, it's been a curse. I have a dear friend, Gary Pop Spikes Sr., and I love him to death, and he's had some good contacts with Dogman. Unfortunately, for me personally, the Dogman has been a curse for what I've dealt with. For the Bigfoot end of it, it has been an extreme blessing. My intelligence level from a layman, of course, now I can also blame this a lot on Ron Morehead, but per se, Ron has been a blessing because he has made me more of an intelligent man. If you can convince my wife of that, but I've become more intelligent and more blessed from the Bigfoot encounters because I've received messages, philosophy, and enlightenment. And I do know that what Ron speaks of how these beings exist, where they come from possibly, and how that they are able to have these special talents and abilities. So yeah, I believe the Bigfoot was a blessing. I believe the Dogman was a curse.
Darrell?
Well, I was told when I was a young man from my grandmother, who was American native on my father's side, that I would have special abilities with creatures, and I never knew what that meant, and I kind of didn't understand what it meant. And after I had my first experience, I realized that these creatures, at the same time, which I was terrified my first experience, I was also led into my second one, which made me realize that these creatures are they're human. They're not an ape. They have a way of leading you into another realm that you didn't know you were capable of going into. And for a creature to have the ability to follow you home and you don't understand how, the natural abilities they have are extremely unreal, especially when they can twist a 6-inch tree around like a straw. But there are other abilities where they have the power to have, with the higher energy, to go into orbs and other things I think they're capable of doing, including interdimensional. Makes you realize that you are blessed.
Very good answer.
Well, it's all about energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yes.
100%. Down to the basics.
And that's how we're going to end off the show. So, Martin, what do you have coming up that you want to share with people?
Yes, I very much want to give the huge shout out again to Jimmy Smith, Golden Pond Distillery, We will have a Bigfoot town hall meeting at June the 13th at 5 p.m. You're encouraged to come early to please get your pictures with your children or just with your loved one with the 12-foot hand-carved Bigfoot man. Most handsome Bigfoot carving of the hairy man on earth. I mean, truly, it is intriguing to see. We'll be at Gatlinburg and several other locations in the coming fall. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing these two guys in the land between the rivers. We will get out on that plateau and we will discover a whole lot. There are so many things I'd like to leave with, but please, if I have that second, hunters, go back and read that Bible and then discover what you're seeing in your peripheral vision. And you need to be aware of looking out of the corner of your eye everywhere that you go, and so that you can see actually feel what's around you.
All right. Thank you for that. And Darrell and Ron, what do you guys got coming up? Share.
We got a big weekend. Go ahead, Darrell.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron. Ron and I will be together in Arkansas on the 1st and 2nd. That's coming up pretty quick here. We'll be headed out down that way and
to Jasper,
Arkansas. And go ahead, Ron.
Oh, that's it. I just thought it was in Jasper, Arkansas.
Be a great conference. Todd Neese has done a great job putting that thing together, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an awesome. Yeah. And then after that, we're going to get together with my main brother there, Mr. Martin Groves, and we're all three going to get out of the LBA. I'll probably meet up in Area 23.
Sounds great. Great.
If they throw rocks, we'll just grab and throw back.
Exactly.
Bring a slingshot.
Yeah.
Amen.
Oh,
Amen.
You can just pop it in the pie hole.
Michelle, your hat is on the way. Your hat is on the way, Michelle.
You guys are funny. I love you both. You're awesome.
We love you too. Thanks for all you do.
Oh,
Martin, thanks for being on, brother. I love you, man.
Martin. Looking forward to seeing you, Martin.
I'm looking forward to seeing you, Ron and Darrell. I love everyone. Everyone, researchers work together and love each other.
Love you, brother.
Love is the name of the game. Love.
Yep.
Compassion.
Right. Love you,
Ron. Right.
Love you, Darrell.
And to everybody listening in tonight, thank you all so very much. The chat room, you guys are amazing. You're just like a total whole other world going on in the chat room. We appreciate you all so very much. So we have been broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. So wherever you're listening, please like, subscribe, share, comment. Feel free, email us. Let us know what you thought about the show. Let us know what you'd like to see in the future. And we're all happy to oblige, as you can see. So thank you all. And good night,
everyone.
Good night.